Hello everyone, welcome to MindSpan Education. So, what we have done so far, we have reviewed few mathematical concepts from the linear algebra and from probability and statistics and from matrix calculus, right? So, even if you have already gone through my lectures of linear algebra and probability and statistics and calculus, I would recommend you to go through the reviews of these, right? Because here we have covered few new things like the matrix calculus, and in probability and statistics we have looked at the multivariate Gaussian random variable, and also we have looked at in statistics the maximum likelihood estimation, right? So we have just looked at the basic things of these because this is what we need to have before we go into any kind of learning algorithm, right? So even if you have taken these um, or have gone through these playlist of the linear algebra, probability and statistics and calculus, I would highly recommend to go through these review because here you will learn something new, and that will be required for the any kind of learning algorithm that we will be looking further, right? Okay, what is in this lecture? So in this lecture we will start with our very first learning algorithm, and we will start with the linear regression. Before starting with this linear regression, let's look at what is machine learning. So what is machine learning? Let me first take an example of how humans learn, because there could be no better example of learning than human learning itself. So let me first of all give you the idea what we do in the machine learning. So in machine learning we try to do is mimic in a certain way how humans learn. So if we are able to successfully mimic this process the way humans learn in machine, then machines can be more efficient and more accurate than humans in making the predictions, right? It could be more robust. All right, let's try to first of all understand that what is actually machine learning, right? So let me take an example of that how human actually learns. So let's suppose that there is a newborn child. So let me bring this newborn child on our screen, right? So this child hasn't seen any object in the world yet. He doesn't know what is what, right? Now let's say we saw this child an object, and this object is nothing but a tree, right? So initially the newborn child doesn't know that what this object is, but over the time the child learns that this object is called a tree, right? And not only does this child learn, but the child also develops the ability to generalize. And what does it mean? What does it mean by not only learning, but it has the ability, this child has the ability, or the human have the ability to not only learn but to generalize the things. So what do I mean by generalize? So even if the object doesn't have the leaf, so let's suppose that this this object doesn't have the leaves or look in different size or shape, or even if we show the different size and shape of this object, right? It could be, might be a cartoon from a television, right? And now if you ask the child what is this, so this child will still be able to say that that is tree, and that is also a tree, right? So even though it is, they are not actually the tree, because this is just a drawing, right? Drawing of a tree, right? Made up of the pixels, right? So the child recognizes the pattern and identifies it correctly as a tree, right? So the child hasn't just remembered one or two specific tree. The child has generalized the concept of the tree across different appearance and the context, right? So this ability to generalized beyond a specific exam is the essence of the human learning, right? Now the question is, can we mimic this kind of learning process in machines? If we can make a machine learn in this way, that is learn from the data and generalize to new situations, then this is what we call is machine learning, right? So in simple terms, machine learning is ability of a machine to mimic the learning process of humans. Okay, now so you might have one question in your mind that on the earth so far, humans are the best animal that can learn and that have the ability to learn and ability to generalize the thing, right, in a very best or a very efficient or a very fast manner, right? So why does we need these machines to learn? So humans have certain limitations. We cannot remember huge amount of data and we cannot look at or process all the data at once, right? However, our learning process is very robust, right? We just can look at the limited data and we are very good at generalizing from the limited data, right? But if we can make a machine not only to learn but also generalize, just like how we do or humans do, and combine that with machines ability to store and process vast amount of data, then we will have a powerful robust learning system, and that is what we aim in machine learning, right? So the goal is to give machine this dual ability. What are those dual ability? So if so we have the machine and the goal is to give these two dual ability. The first is to learn from past data or from experience, and the second ability is to generalize to any new or unseen data, right? So if you compare with the human learning, so this newborn child doesn't know what this object is, but over the time he saw that many peoples are calling this object as tree, this object as tree. So the human have the ability to learn that this object is tree, and he has also ability to generalize uh, and and do the prediction of what we call is a tree, right? And why do we need that? Because in real life problems we have a lot of problem statement, or we have a lot of problem we where we do the predictions or we do the prediction based on the learning, right? We cannot write the formula for each and everything, right? Let me give you an example. Let's suppose that the very first example is that handwritten digit recognition. right? So suppose we need to recognize handwritten digits, right? People writes digits in many different way, different style, different shape, different size, right? Can we write a formula that takes an image of a handwritten digit and gives the correct output, that what this digit is? No, we cannot write such a fixed formula, right? We cannot have the formula, or we cannot pin down a formula for that, right? But if we collect a millions of handwritten digit from different people, from different countries, right? So millions of handwritten digits from different people, and feed into a machine, the machine can learn the pattern from the data. Then when a new handwritten digit is given, the machine can predict what digit is. And the very interesting and the impressive part is that machine can often be more accurate than human, because it has seen and remembered far more examples than human possibly could. Let me take one more example, is that predicting the price of used car. So the second example, predicting used car price. Right. So suppose you want to sell your car and you need to decide the right price, right? So you might look at the online marketplaces to see what the price others are putting for the car similar to yours, right? Based on what your car model, mileage, condition, and so on, right? And from this you make a rough estimate of your car's price. But you might be wrong. Maybe you did not look at enough examples, or maybe you priced it too high or too low, right? So can we have a formula for this problem? No, because the price depends on many changing factors, like the market demand, what is the season right now, what is the car condition, right? So there are a lot of factors. But if we have data from thousands or millions of past car sales, then the machine can learn from that data and predict the right price for your car with much higher accuracy, right? And this is the power of machine learning, solving problems that cannot be described by a simple fixed formula, but by learning directly from the data, right? So to summarize, machine learning is a process of teaching machine to learn from data or from the experience, right? And it is not about memorizing the past data, but it is also about generalizing to new data. So the idea is to mimic how human learns by observing, identifying patterns, and predicting outcome, but do it on a much larger scale. So what is next? So we will start by studying different learning algorithms and understand that how machine learns from the data. We will start with one of the simplest and the most fundamental algorithm, linear regression, and explore how machines learn relationship from data and make predictions. So we will begin with one of the simplest and most fundamental algorithm, linear regression.